Eight, yes. Yay. All right. So meet April, the driving force behind Ascension Collaborative. With over 25 years of corporate experience under her belt, she is not your average business advisor. She is a strategic powerhouse. Yes, she is. Blending her corporate expertise with more than a touch of spiritual wisdom, April employs a high vantage point to create practical plans that actually work. Her guidance isn't just about giving answers, it's about helping clients find their own way forward, even when things get overwhelming.
Mhm.
As a wife, mother, grandmother, daughter, friend, and all around Wonder Woman, she infuses every project with her vibrant blend of fun and productivity. That is my that is our intro in a nutshell to who April
Wow.
is. I will add that April is also, I mentioned one of my best friends on the planet.
Mhm.
April is also on our team in Intuitive Daughters of God and an advisor in the Armory. That's our monthly membership. If you want to know more about that, please reach out. But I am so happy to have you here with us, April.
Thank you
Yay!
so much for having me. I appreciate
Yes. So I'm actually about to turn this over to you and have you just dive into our training. You have anything that you want to chat about before we jump in?
No, just thank you very much for having me. And you know what, you made it easy. I went and listened to your identifying healthy community. And as usual, Nanette, you have the order of these things right. First, identify, is this a healthy place? Second, identify as you engage. Am I in a healthy enough place to even be in this group? You know, that's part of it. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
it is part of it. And I'm so excited to hear what you have to bring to us. And
thank
I will
you.
pop in at the end and you and I will just have like a little wrap up.
Sounds
All right,
good. Thank you, Nanette.
take it from here.
Yes, I will take it from here. Today I am talking about engaging in healthy community. As I said, go back. It's going to be right there in the guide. She said she'll go ahead and have that teaching available. So hopefully you've already watched that, because it really sets the stage for where we're going when we talk about how are we going to engage? What are the keys to healthy engagement? I am passionate about this topic. Not, she listed earlier about our friendship. I'm passionate about it from not only the communities, the small groups, work, friendships, all the ways that we engage. And I feel like today I have some keys to offer you that will help you maybe, but lack of better wording, engage better in communities by engaging with yourself and doing that self check. Earlier, it was all about let's look at the community. Now let's look at ourselves first. And so the keys are going to look like this. We, the At the highest level, it's going to be about authenticity. You authentically showing up as you. Intuitive daughters of God need to know that every time you say yes to a coming in there, because God has placed you there, because you are an atmosphere changer, just your very presence being there invites his presence into the room. And so when you show up and you're authentically being you, it changes everything. So here's the 3 areas we're going to look at today. Key number 1 will be connecting with yourself, doing your own health check. Key 2, identifying your expectations of the group and what's your entry point. How are you going to insert yourself into the group? The third key is offering your full yes. So when I say yes, I'm saying yes to the group, and I'm going to show up and give all of it, give all that I have to give. I'm going to show up. It's natural for IDGs, Intuitive Daughters of God. You're going to hear me say IDG. I'll give you all the acronyms so that you can keep up with me. But it is natural for an IDG, when thinking about community engagement, to feel overwhelmed, to feel uncertain, sometimes insecure, because when you arrive on the scene, being a intuitive one in in the room, you automatically are picking up on what's being put down in there. Meaning you're picking up on the energies, you're picking up on the innuendos, you're picking up on all the things that are going around in the room. And that will sometimes affect how you engage. And so it's important for you to, again, think about this as, I'm going to engage and freely be myself. I will continue to give that message because I want to make sure that we are focused on the authenticity piece of that. Another kind of baseline, I'm going to use the word, we're talking about being in communities and in groups, but I want you to think about this whole approach to look at every area that you're connected. So it's groups that are in a room, groups that are online, local groups, political groups, mother groups, crafting groups, any place that you go, including the job that you're at. That is a group and a community for which you are engaging. Churches, friendship circles, everything that I list can apply, but I'll be using the word community and group. So you just be thinking about, okay, what places in my life could I be looking at how I can engage healthier? And then just apply these principles. I was preparing for this teaching. I heard the Lord say, "Oh, the places you will go," and I was like, "Wait, I think that's a Dr. Seuss book." Because I used to own it. It's no longer in my library. I gave that away. However, I thought, Lord, what is it that you would say to your whimsical daughters about that you would bring up something as fun as Dr. Seuss? And I looked up what are famous quotes from that book and listened to this one. I feel like this is the key to engagement. And here's the quote. So again, the book is called Oh, the Places You'll Go. Here's the quote. It says, "You have brains in your head and you have feet in your shoes, and you can steer yourself in any direction you choose." I love that. I feel like that fits the whimsical nature of who an IDG is, who an intuitive daughter of God is. Like, we navigate this world and we've got the brains in our and feet and shoes, and we can go whichever direction we choose. Like, I get excited thinking about that. And so I want to invite you into those 3 keys I'm going to talk about. And the first one is going to be connecting with yourself. Where are you at? We owe it to ourselves before we say yes to being a part of other groups and communities to acknowledge where we are at mentally. Doing that first health check we're going to health check the group. Now we're going to health check ourselves. Because IDGs can really feel the room. Some of these rooms can be triggering and have us want to immediately leave the room as soon as we get there. But we can go through all the heart work that is needed to make sure that, hey, I'm going to arrive on the scene and I'm going to bring the best version of me. And that's the key, is owning your own stuff. I can tell you there have been times I have had heart healing, counseling, support groups for just all the various things in my life I've gone through. Now I'm saying that with a smile because I've done some work and I'm on the other side of many of these topics. But the reality is there were times when I entered into group settings when I really wasn't healthy enough to be there. And we've all seen that. You've got this is about social and emotional awareness, but we've been in the group where there was that, I'm going to give those names, the negative Nancy, Kathy, the codependent, what is another one? Sensitive Sally's, dominating Debbie's, all those things in between, where they were in the group setting, but they really didn't understand what's the purpose of the group. And they're showing up, bringing their baggage with them. One point for me, I was divorced. Let's see. I was divorced, remarried, separated, and tried to go into a group. And I will tell you that poor group got a really unhealthy version of me. And fortunately, I had someone in that group that was able to recommend counseling to me so I could bring my awareness back in check. The group was good to me, but when I rearview mirror that, I really needed to understand what that group was about. And take a look at myself. And this isn't about judging me or judging you. Self-awareness is about, it's a loving thing to do a check. It's a loving thing to be honest with yourself and say, you know what, Lord, I've got a lot going on in my life. And when I think about engaging in this community, this job, that church, all those places, I need to really take a look at myself and do a self check. So that's the first place you're going to look is your own health. And the great news is the Holy Spirit is there holding space for you to just take a nice deep breath and check in with yourself before you would go into the group and dominate it, like dominating Debbie. I rearview mirror so many times when I've had that in groups that I've led, and you're just, that the heartache is real. Okay, the other one. So we'll shift into another one. Another question as a health check is going to be a seasonal question. Is this the right season for me to engage? Taking a look at what's going on in your life. We're mothers, we're sisters, we're friends, we've got jobs, we're doing this, we're doing that. Is this the right season? Another place that we need to be honest with ourselves. Do you have the capacity to be a part of this group? What does this group expect? Do you have room in your life to fit this in and be able to be fully present for the group? That's another one. And then a tough question that you probably have to ask yourself is, how many groups am I currently in? And do you need to leave any to make room for maybe this new community you want to engage with? As our life ebbs and flows with seasons, it is really important that you would take a look at everything going on in your life. I do believe, ebbing and flowing is an intuitive daughter of God's superpower. We can show up. We know how to go. We know how to ebb and flow. And so tap into that superpower that you have and know that you have permission. We grant you permission today to step back from any communities that you really believe, okay, Lord, it is time for me to move on. It is a rarity. And I use the word rarity because it is possible that there are forever communities out there. That is not there. As we're moving, growing, and shifting, it would be a rarity. So you can say no. And you're like, April, what? But I gave them my yes. I have to, I've got to be staying committed. And your yes to that group should not be at the cost of missing out on the next thing that you're co-creating with God. And oftentimes that's what'll happen. We'll have a bucket of yeses, all of these things that we have our hand in, and yet we're not fully committed to any of them. And that will dilute all that it is that you've got going on in your life. And I think saying no, it honors the next thing that you and God are talking about doing. So take a look at that. Some of the questions. So I'll leave you with questions. I love that Nanette did that. So you can write these down as you're checking in, and this first key of, where am I? Am I healthy enough? Do I need to step back? And the great news about being connected with IDG is we've got coaches, advisors, heart healing. There are so many things that are available right through the connections here with IDG that could really help you kind of reassess where you are. So questions are, number one, what is my current mental state? Should I explore heart healing or counseling before I engage? Number two, does this community group, does this fit the current season of my life? With the question of what needs to go and what needs to stay in regards to the groups and the communities that I'm a part of. So what is my current mental state? And does this fit the current season of my life? So those are two questions you can ponder. Ask the Holy Spirit. Sometimes I think a lot of our yeses just start stacking up because we see that he's in that thing. And just because he's in that thing doesn't mean that you should be. There are plenty of other daughters who can say yes to that. Okay. All right. Key number two, identifying your expectations and your entry point into a community. So where are they going and what should I expect? understanding the group's purpose is going to be a very important key to deciding how you're going to engage. So we've got groups where we serve others. We've got groups where we learn a skill, gain a new knowledge. IDG in the Armory is it's a like-minded group of people growing, moving forward in their life, supporting each other, going in the same direction. So you've got to really understand the purpose. And then once you understand the purpose of the group, now you have to align your expectations with that, right? What's their mission, vision, values of the group? If those are defined already, go check and see, what's this group actually about? Or maybe it's a new group, and that's okay, right? Like people don't have to have a mission, vision, and values, right? But some places do. So you really want to make sure that you align your expectations by doing that Holy Spirit check-in. What is it, Lord, that I'm expecting from this group? What are they expecting from me, right? There's duality, because as soon as IDG arrives on the scene, she is changing that atmosphere. She's adding to the elements and layers and color to that atmosphere. And that's happening everywhere you go. You are going to add those colors and those layers. And I think it's great. It's great to be reminded of that power within you, right? It's not just about sitting on the sidelines and always being the observer. It's knowing that, hey, I've got something to offer. Nanette is a great example of that, because when you watch, you go into a room with Nanette and you're going to see the energy shift when she arrives. Freedom and flow go with her everywhere she goes. And I'm saying that as someone who knows her, like she said, as a best friend, peek under the hood. That is exactly who she is. She authentically shows up everywhere that she goes. And that's why you're going to see the impact that she has when she fully engages is overflowing with what God's trying to do to co-create in that environment. So she's such a great example of that. And the other one, other points about setting the proper expectation is to know your posture as you enter the room. This is the place where realism and hope can collide. You have both of these realities, right? How am I arriving? What do they want? What do I want? Am I a giver in this community? Am I a receiver in this community? What role am I playing? Because I think that there's times when we arrive and we are in a giving season, so we're sowing into that community. And then there are other times when we are on the receiving end, where we've got to acknowledge that this is a place where I'm harvesting from right now. I am here gathering information. I happen to be in a handful of trainings this year where I am aware that my expectation of my entry point, and as are those who are hosting it, is I'm there to harvest information. I am gathering data, but I'm in these communities for a season to do that. And by putting myself in having those right expectations, I'm not, filled with disappointment. I'm not asking the community to be something that it can't, or to fill a need within me then that it cannot fill. Checking my notes here. So we're looking at how we're going to enter the community. If you aren't sure why you're there, right? So am I receiving? Am I giving? Am I doing both? Am I doing it all? If you're not sure why you are there, then, and yet you feel led to be there, you've got to trust the Holy Spirit is guiding you, and you've got to embrace the journey before you, right? Even when, this isn't about having it figured out. All these things I'm listing about, oh, am I receiving? Am I giving? We don't have to know, but it's nice that we ask ourselves those questions before we even get there. What is it that's going on in this room? Lord, I'm going to trust you when you lead me here, and I'm going to embrace all that is before me. I'm going to come into this place. I'm going to go with the flow, because again, embracing the journey, I believe, is an IDG superpower. We can come in and be a part of the flow. So the questions that I would encourage you to ask yourself when you're trying to identify, well, what am I expecting and how am I going to show up here is what is drawing me to this community and what do I hope to gain? Really sitting with yourself and asking yourself that question. And then the how will I enter the community is what posture do you have? Are you a giver? Are you a receiver? Are you doing both? And most of all, can you just go in there and embrace the fact that you're on this journey? Being mindful that putting too many expectations out there will actually and can lead to disappointment. People see a group, all of the shiny things that go on in there, and you've got to realize there are human beings that are leading it and there are human beings that are a part of it. And we do not have to put great expectation on there, but we can have an expectation of how we're going to engage and what we're going to receive. And in my personal example of being a receiver, I mean, on harvesting, when you take the time to really understand, like I did, like I have in this season of my life, I'm in a training season of technical knowledge, where that community has lots of different things that it can offer. I could engage, I could get connected with a small group within it. I could do all of these things, but I knew at the current season of my life, the purpose for which I'm connecting to the group, I knew exactly where I needed to be. And by doing that, I'm not even wasting energies. I am able to, quite frankly, I don't even go live to the recordings. The first 15 minutes is conversations that I don't believe are relevant to my purpose, which is the harvesting of the information. And about the last 15 minutes is them selling their course that I already know I don't want to buy, right? So, give yourself permission to let it be whatever it is. Lots of permission is being given to you today. Okay, the final key is offering your full yes. How are you going to show up? Gauging, I'm going to recommend a gradual engagement strategy, which says there's a measured approach to how you would enter into community. Entering into a community like building a new friendship, right? Let's avoid overwhelming the community with excessive input on right when you get in there, right? Like get in there, get in the room, pay attention to what's going on, understand the rules of engagement for that group. That's a great way to determine, again, how are you going to be offering your full yes. I can tend to enter into a room, just by nature of my personality, with a full 10 energy, outspoken. Here I am. Instead of, and I'm saying this as someone who has become self-aware, I'm now a little more aware. Okay, things happen more organically than that. I don't have to immediately come into the room on a level 10, right? I can honor the room, the purpose of the room, the purpose of this community, and understand how I need to engage. I would say the truth that can also be true for those who are reserved. They are going to come in with reserved energy on a 10, right? And so there's this place of like measuring your approach, coming somewhere in the middle, and at the same time authentically being you, challenging yourself to come into that room and be a part of the community. I have been referred to as too much. And there have been times when honestly I can say they were not wrong. My muchness came in and I didn't do that that measured approach. And it's that check yourself before you wreck yourself kind of a concept where it's like, April, Lord, thank you that you have made me mindfully curious, that I have a curiosity, I have a mind, as they said, I have a brain, right? In Dr. Seuss's book. And God has helped me, Holy Spirit in me has helped me approach things in a more measured way, where I'm just checking in before I would jump in. And a measured approach is really going to be all about balancing who you are when you show up and how you show up. And that's going to help you understand how to uniquely offer your perspective and contribution too, because you've taken time to let these relationships organically unfold. You'll find people get invited to, I've been in communities where I was sitting on the sidelines long enough to determine how I was going to insert myself. And then I was eventually asked to become one of the contributing members of the community just by the observations and the things that I added. Why? Because when an intuitive daughter of God arrives on the scene and she's using a measured approach of just watching and being mindful, opportunities will present themselves because they can feel the energy shift and change that we offer in the room. And then the other point will be about purposeful commitment. When you say yes, be intentional about showing up and being there, showing up for yourself, showing up for your new friends, showing up for the purpose of the community, letting that giving and receiving flowing back and forth, letting that superpower of an IDG happen, all because you said yes. And hopefully, based on the previous question, you said no to some other things so that you actually have the bandwidth to be there. You want to be able to strike a balance and purposefully offer up your active participation. When you have assessed that this is the place that you're going to be and you're going to give it your yes, don't hold back from authentically being you. The room needs you to show up. The community, the group, the job, the church. 100% of who you are needs to be showing up in that place and making a difference in that atmosphere. And that's what it's about. When you offer your yes, you're going to give it. You're going to give it all. And then the other part of our yes is actually knowing when it's time to leave. Because as I said earlier, communities that you stay in forever, it's a rarity that they exist. So part of your yes is going to be trusting your instinct when it's time to go. And I'm not talking about leaving when you're mad or getting triggered and getting out of a group. That's not what I mean. I'm saying when you know you've weighed and measured, you've used your natural intuition and you said, okay, it's time for me to go. That is, to me, as purposeful as you can be about being committed, because you're saying, I will be here as long as I'm supposed to be. That is purposeful commitment. Even though our world and just the streams of women will tell you something different. We get these messages that tell us, oh, you're going to be there and we're going to be here forever and we're going to do this forever. And look at what we're doing and look at the part that you're playing. And the reality is that is an unfair assumption that we continue to put on ourselves as beautiful, powerful women who are flowing with the Holy Spirit. We've got to give each other permission to be a place and then move on to the next thing. So while you're in the group, you're there with purposeful intention. You're embracing the journey fully. And then when it's time for you to go on, you're going to do that just as well. So you can enter groups engaging and do that well. And then when it's time to exit, you can do that well too. So some of the questions to ask yourself are, how can I build connection with the community gradually and authentically? So I'm showing up as 100% of who I am, but I'm doing that because I'm aware of the organic nature. So how can I build connections within the community gradually and authentically? What unique strengths and gifts and perspectives do I bring to this community? And how can I share those? Once we've taken a look at the room, we're going to have time to be able to ask ourselves those questions. And then the final one, which will just be an assessment of all the things that you do, hopefully so that you can make room to join us in IDG. That's a shameless plug, Nanette, but I want these people to come join us. Is it time to go in other areas and communities that you are in? I believe that IDGs authentically showing up change the atmosphere of a room. And they do that with such whimsical fun and such color, because when we have done, no, done, I won't say done because I was about to say done the work. That's not true. When we are flowing in our lives in all of the things that God has us doing, the heart healing, the counseling, building groups, building businesses, all the things that we do, as we arrive on the scene, again, we change the atmosphere. Everything shifts because we are bringing in hope and joy and love, and oftentimes a whimsical, mystical side of ourselves that has the whole room open up to new considerations. And so I will, again, read that lovely quote. If you have not gotten the book and you want to read a book about embracing journeys before you, Dr. Seuss's book, Oh, the Places You'll Go. Here is the reminder. You have a brain in your head and you have feet in your shoes, and you can steer yourself in any direction you choose. So the overarching theme here about engaging is that you matter. You make a difference everywhere you go. Ask yourself those questions from earlier and just make sure that you are authentically showing up as you, so that the overflow in that room gets to feel all that you are and all that you have to offer. And that's what I've got.
Thank you, April. Oh, that was so good. That was so good.
Yeah.
I just want to mention one of the things that I love that I noticed about this training is that you started with basically the approach, the pre-entry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you went into like how to enter and how to gradually and authentically build connection.
Yes.
I feel like that is, if you get nothing else from this, the two things would be, how can I build connection gradually and authentically in the spaces that I specifically feel called to? And the
Yeah.
other one is to give yourself permission to show up in the appropriate measure for the appropriate time, with the understanding that not every group, and in fact, most of them are not lifelong commitments.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a real hindrance for women in particular, that once we say yes to something, and that'll mess with the engagement that we have in every other area, including being a mom, being
Yes,
a friend, being like, we see those friends who've said yes to all the things. So yeah, as I thought about this teaching for this specific group, you know how I do that. And then I'm like, Lord,
I
what
do.
do you
You're so good at that.
for these daughters? It was like, give them permission. Give them permission to leave other places and make room for the new things I'm doing for them and with them.
Yes. And so what that can look like is this. Let's just make it really practical. What that can look like is this. You set aside a chunk of time. Let's say I want to throw out 45 minutes. Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's
not
good.
even a whole hour, not even a whole hour, 45 minutes. Sit down and just start going through, what are my current commitments?
Yep.
Where am I saying yes to already?
Hmm.
What new things am I interested in potentially saying yes to?
Yeah.
And write those out.
Hmm.
And then go back to the first list where you currently are and say, like, Holy Spirit, like, show me. What am I currently committed to that the time there is wrapping up?
And
Or that the role there is changing. So, for example, let's say that you're involved in a local church and you've been doing a lots there, lots of tons and tons of big stuff,
yeah.
right? They get more and more dependent on you, and then you start being plugged in here and plugged in there and plugged in the other place, and you got 5 different ministries going all in one place, right?
It's a lot.
And then you start feeling drawn a different direction, but you're like, but I don't have the capacity for that.
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes our relationship needs to change, and other times we need to say no fully and step out,
Right.
depending on what's going on, right? So I just want to encourage each of you who are watching to honor yourself and your own process, to honor your current season. And if you're transitioning into a new season, I feel like a lot of you, this is going to hit a lot of you as you're transitioning out of a season and into a season, to honor that time, to honor that transition by taking an accurate and spirit-led inventory,
Mm-hmm.
and then making those changes confidently, because you are actually the queen of your environment. Okay. You are the daughter of the king. You have a crown on. You are walking in dominion. And your yes is extremely powerful, and your no is extremely powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of just, we love to, there are two different kinds of go with the flow. Okay. So there's go with the flow where it just happens to us and we just kind of go with it. And that's kind of powerless, right? And then there's an intentional going with the flow. And that's going with the intuitive flow,
Yep.
or with the flow of Holy Spirit. Being aware of the space that we're in, right? And saying, like, is this the flow I'm in? Is this aligned? Are we flowing the same direction?
Yep.
Being aware of that flow, of the currents, and making your powerful choices, because you're a powerful person. You're a powerful woman. Those of you who are women watching this, you're a powerful woman making powerful choices.
Mm-hmm. And and then within that, do that superpower inventory, right? Anik talks a lot about that. Anik's another advisor in our group, but do a superpower inventory. Know what it is that you have to offer when you're
Yes.
on the scene. Like when you're talking about queenship, like know that this place will forever be impacted because I said yes. That's how powerful our yes is.
Yeah. Yeah. And case in point, you showed up and you brought one of your superpowers is being able to connect with the person you're talking to. So you made this, you spoke to the intuitive daughters of God when you came today.
Mm-hmm.
This was a highly customized training, highly customized training. And that's one of the superpowers you bring is that you see who it is that are speaking to, and that you speak so directly to them that it's going to the heart, the spirit, the bone marrow is being ignited by the words that are spoken, because it's being spoken to that daughter.
Yeah.
So I want to honor you in bringing your superpower and speaking so directly to us.
Thank you so much.
What is on the Father's heart.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me here. And I sent Nanette something. I think I texted it to her. It was out of an Enneagram email I got, right? So I get these emails, these daily emails, and I snipped this out and she said, you should share it. And I had a spot in here and it just didn't fit, but it will fit to close this out, because IDGs are birthing promises, right? Listen to this. They call it the teaching moment on this email I get. It says, knowing the truth of who we are is the beginning, right? That's what we were talking about. Like the first thing I said about engagement is knowing yourself.
Yeah.
Knowing the truth of who you are is the beginning. From here, we can midwife that which is trying to be born in us. But this impossible to do without working with our barriers and our blockages to being present. So that is saying, if you are ready to birth your promise, midwife what it is that you are into this world, the healthy thing that you can do is be truthful with yourself about who you are, what those barriers and obstacles and blockages are, so that you can be present as you engage in community. Like that's the co-creation story. That's what the Holy Spirit's doing inside of each of us. As we say, yes, I will engage.
Yes. I love that.
I loved
So
it. I
good.
saw it and I thought of you. I knew you'd love it. I was
I
like,
know. I
Nanette
did.
Nanette has to hear this. This is the language of the IDG.
It is. We are birthing. We are birthing things. And the very first thing that we birth is our true self,
Ugh,
right?
I love it.
And where that rises to the surface and really comes to maturity is within community.
Mm,
And that's why we have to show up. I mean, we could
so
we could
good.
be like, this is too hard. Sometimes it feels like that, right?
Mhm.
Real talk.
Yeah, but
But
it's worth it.
that is where we come to this fullness of maturity is
Mhm.
through the process of engaging in community. And it really
Yeah,
can't happen without that.
yeah,
It truly can't.
yeah.
So,
And this
mhm.
is another plug for the Armory, but it has to be said because I've been around long enough in the Armory, which is Nanette's group, and the women that are in this group who I remember in the very beginning, who are now part of the, I mean, they're the part of the leadership team. They are coaching women and leading women. The getting in and around the right places that are for you, designed for you, that will help you um, do the hard work, right? Get into the inside and go into a place and being surrounded by other people who are like, yes, birth that thing that you just said about yourself. That's
Yes.
what happens. And as a matter of fact, one of the early Armory members is now one of my advisors.
Yeah.
Valerie, I sit under her advisement, right?
Yes.
So here I was the advisor in her group, and now she, I mean, that's the beauty of when we give our big yes.
Yes.
Everything changes.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And there is no hierarchy. Just final little thing. That's an illusion.
Yeah.
There are leadership roles and positions. That's a functional
Mhm.
aspect. But
Yeah.
when it comes to value and what we have to bring, there's not a hierarchy with that. And a
Mhm.
healthy community is going to foster
Say it.
a healthy exchange between the brand new individual in that community, the ones that have been there a super long time, the ones that are younger, the ones that are older, the ones that are more
Mm.
experienced, the ones that are maybe a little bit fresher to the conversation, like all of that. You have a voice and you have gifts and you have just the magnificence that is you, that was created for such a time as this.
Mhm.
So bring it on with your bad self.
So good. That's so good when you talk about leveling the playing field because it is the mindset that I stops people from being the fullness of who they are, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So freeing. All right. Love you, girl. Thank you so much. This has
Thank
been
you.
amazing. And I
Love
hope
you.
everybody goes to watch this. So good. All right. Come tomorrow for
John.
for my interview with John, which is going to be super awesome. So again, that's going to be a YouTube live
Okay.
and will also be available on replay and as part of this series. So yay. All right. Love you all. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, April.
Thank you.